What's up everyone? It's Friday, August 13th, and in this video I'm going to be going over the two trades that I took on Tesla to the long side, and I happened to make $235 in the first 30 minutes. Nothing too crazy. The more important thing is that on the second trade, had I been just slightly more patient, I would have had a massive loss. Okay, so now let's get into the watch list. The main focus today was Tesla, Apple, Nvidia, BABA, MRNA, and Disney. And now let's get into the technicals of the overall market and then the technicals of the watch list. So starting with SPY, it had a decent candle the prior day, just grinding higher, still above the 9 EMA. It was trading right near prior day's high, which would also be a new all-time high. So if it takes that out, of course, it could go higher if there was any weakness in the market, just knowing where prior day's low was, and that was at 442.66. And also making sure to know where the 9 EMA was on the daily, because that would be support. And now the Qs, which is in a bit more of a range, but it just closed above the 9 EMA the prior day, which is a good sign. Maybe that could start the next move higher, but I don't want to have too much of a bias. So the levels I'm looking at, prior day's high, 367.90. Prior day's low, if there's any weakness, 364.30. Knowing that it was right near the short-term moving averages, the 9 EMA, the 20 SMA, and it also has all-time high above at 369.91. And now Tesla, which the daily chart looked pretty good, had a very nice move the prior day off the 9 EMA. That's a nice candle. I thought maybe it could have a second day continuation and break out of this range. So the levels I was looking at was this prior pivot high resistance, 726.94. If it gets through that and holds up, looks pretty good. Pre-market high, 726. Prior day high, 722.80. And pre-market high, 719.91. Didn't think it was going to get there because it was pretty far away, but just out of habit, making sure that I marked the prior day's low, and that was at 699.40. And now Apple on the daily chart looked great on this as well. It's been consolidating for a little bit, above the 9 EMA, above the 20 SMA. Very nice momentum candle off those short-term moving averages. Felt like this could possibly have a second day continuation as well, knowing that all-time high was above at 150. So the levels that I was looking at was the all-time high, 150, pre-market high, 149.25, prior day high, 149.05, and pre-market low, 148.52. And even though I did not feel like it was going to get there, just knowing where prior day's low was, just out of habit, and that was at 145.84. And now Nvidia, and the reason why I like this is because it's still a very strong daily chart, and it was trading right near the 9 EMA, still knowing that all-time high is not too far away. So a lot of times strong stocks, they can ebb and flow to and from the moving averages, and when they reclaim them, especially to the upside, sometimes that can kickstart a new move. So the main levels I was looking at was this 250. The reason why I like this is because it's been a big area of resistance. If it breaks that, it looks pretty good. Also knowing that pre-market high was right at that area too. And then making sure to know where the downside levels were just in case. Pre-market low, 199.05, and prior day low, 196.20. And now BABA, and the reason why I like this is because the daily chart does not look great. It's been pretty weak, and it's trending underneath the 9 EMA. So the levels I was looking at was prior day's high. For some reason, the dip wanted to get bought, 192.98, and then knowing that this major area of support, right around 189, 188, if that breaks, it did look pretty good to the downside. Also knowing that it had a downside gap at 186.90. And now MRNA, and the reason why I had this on watch is because it's pretty volatile and sometimes it can choose a direction and form clean flag patterns. The levels I was looking at to the upside was prior day's high and pre-market high. If it takes that out, it did look like just maybe it could have a short-term bounce, still knowing that there is a lot of resistance to the left though. And if it failed and it started to show some weakness, knowing where pre-market low was and prior day's low, if it took out prior day's low, it did look like it had some downside room. And the last one on the list, which is Disney, the reason why I like this, had the big gap up due to earnings. Who knows which way this is going to go, but it was clearing a lot of price action to the left. Rather than trying to be too biased, just marking the levels that I could. Pre-market high, 189.50. If it takes that out and holds up, looked pretty good to the upside. And then pre-market low, 185.99. If it gets sold, it did look like it had some downside room to move into this open gap on the daily. Okay, so now getting into the first trade, or at least an attempt to make a trade. So I rarely ever try to take trades within the first minute of the day, but Tesla looked really good. Had the quick dip off the open. A lot of times I've seen this where it can dip real quick and then rip to the upside. And if it took out that 725 area, I thought it looked really good for a breakout. So I made an attempt to get long 10 contracts right there. The 725 calls at 495 and my order got skipped. And then as you can see, this thing had an insane move and those contracts went to almost $7. So even though I missed this, in a way, I'm kind of glad I didn't get filled because it was a very risky trade. Who knows if I would have got out of this fast enough? Because if you see what happened after the fact, it had a very big move off the open and then instantly gave it back. So if I was not able to get out of that quick enough, that could have been really bad. So it did have the possibility to be a great trade, because if I was able to get out real quick on that pop, I would have been up very nicely. But also the other side, if I was not able to get out quick and I decided to hold on for a little bit and that came in, that could have been a really nasty loss as well. Okay, so here's the first trade on Tesla where I get filled. So it's clearly had a big move higher, got over high of day. I wanted to wait for a pattern. Quick flag pattern right here. As it gets through 729, I got long the 730 calls, filled at 455, anticipating the high day break. And then if it starts to speed up, that's obviously an area where I want to take profits. But you can see right here, it's kind of struggling. Tesla moves and it moves fast. When it does not break as clean as I want it to, I start to get a little cautious. So I want to give it a second because it hasn't done anything wrong. But just knowing that if this doesn't really pick up, I need to watch out and make sure to be safe. And as this comes into that 730, it's just not going as fast as I wanted to see it. And then that topping candle right there, or the topping wick, starts to come in. And I make sure I don't want to be involved in any sort of pullback. So just reading the price action there. And I got out of that to be safe. And I got filled on those contracts at $4.71. And another reason why I got out of that quick is because, yes, it did look like a nice flag pattern on the 1, but I am incorporating the 2-minute into my trading as well. And on the 2-minute, this was actually a green candle. So it was 4 green candles in a row, a little extended. And because the flag pattern was not clean on the 2, and then it started to come in, I got out just realizing that it was not that good of a setup. And here's the second trade on Tesla. So I had that push. I'm glad I got out because it pulled back. It's right at that 9 EMA. Also is looking better on the 2-minute. And if you can see by that line I put there, that's a nice looking flag pattern. I get a pretty aggressive entry here because I'm trying to get better with my entries. That 728 whole number, as it clears some of those candles on the 1 minute to the left, I ended up getting long. I went long the 730 calls, only 5 of them. I sized down just to be safe, and I got filled at $3.90. And this is the trade where, had I been more patient, I would have got hurt because this was a really nasty flag rejection. So that looks really good. Riding the 9 EMA, finally moving higher. Also knowing that the daily lines up as well. Looks really good for a possible breakout. Comes into 729. I really thought that this was going to make a new high of day. I'm glad that I'm already in the trade and I didn't chase it, because had I chased that, I would have been down pretty fast. But because I had a good entry, I was able to react to the fact that it did not continue higher. So when it rejected aggressively off that 729, I got out of the trade. I did not want to be involved in a possible fake break, and I got filled on those contracts at $4.05. And it was a really good out because check out this rejection. Came into that 729 and instantly reverses very hard. And sometimes this happens. This is why trading in the stock market is very difficult, because every now and then you can get caught. And this is why sometimes those losers can be big when it comes to scalping, because if you're not able to make a very quick decision, this is what can happen. I mean, that went from 729 down to 725 in just a matter of seconds. And especially when trading same week expirations, they get absolutely wrecked on moves like that. All right, now let's check out the P&L. So after those 2 trades, ended up being up $235. Not very exciting, but I did avoid some trouble. So it could have been a big red day instead. That was the trade recap. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just want to highlight a couple really cool things that I have to offer. The first is my newsletter watch list that I'm going to be posting on my private Twitter 30 minutes before the open of each trading day. Here's an example of what that's going to look like. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the market, the SPY, the Qs, the upside levels, the downside levels, and then a sentence or two as to the overall bigger picture. Make sure to highlight any market news or events that are happening that day. And then I'm going to list the 4 to 6 stocks that I'm watching that day. If there's any company specific news, all the upside levels and the downside levels, and then do a quick bigger picture, a couple sentences as to what's going on in the daily chart. This is everything that's in my head prior to market open. This is how I prepare, and a really easy way to get access to my trading process. One page with everything I'm looking at, all the technical levels, and all the news delivered 30 minutes before market open in a really organized fashion. Also, I have a call service, so if you want something that's a little bit less of a commitment, you want to connect with me directly, talk about my trading, my journey along the way, and just connect with another trader, this is really great. And this can be a video call or a regular call, whatever you're comfortable with. It's a one-time fee, and it's going to be for 1 hour. So if you're interested in either one of these, I will put the links in the description below.